Hello there, and welcome back once again to Tales from the World's Firesides. I'm Clive Gilson, the story guy, and as ever, I'm thrilled that you've come back to listen to a new story. Today, we're diving into a story called The Seven Ravens, which is a classic German folk tale taken from my collection Tales from Germania, and I've polished this little gem just for you today. So, grab a comfy seat and let's jump into some magic. The Seven Ravens. Once upon a time there was a man who had 7 sons. After years of hoping for a daughter, his wish was finally granted, but when the baby girl was born, she was so small and weak that her parents feared she wouldn't survive. They decided that she must be christened at once. The father sent one of his sons to fetch water from the spring, but his 6 brothers ran with him, each of them eager to be the first to draw the water. In their haste, their pitchers slipped from their hands and tumbled into the well. The boys stared at one another in horror. None of them dared go home empty-handed. Meanwhile, back at the house, their father grew impatient. "Where are those boys?" he muttered. "Oh, no doubt they've lost track of time, playing some foolish game." But as the minutes dragged on, his frustration boiled over. "Oh, useless boys," he snapped. "I wish they'd all turn into ravens." The words had barely left his lips when a sudden flurry of wings filled the air. Looking up, he saw 7 jet-black ravens circling above, cawing mournfully. His anger vanished in an instant, replaced by deep regret. But it was too late. His curse had taken hold already. Heartbroken, the father tried to console himself with his daughter, who, against all odds, grew stronger by the day. She was beautiful and bright, and she became the joy of her parents' lives. For years, she never knew she had brothers. Her parents never spoke of them, but one day she overheard whispers among the servants. "Oh, she's lovely, no doubt," one muttered, "but what a price to pay, losing 7 sons for one daughter." A cold shiver ran down her spine. Sons? What sons? She confronted her parents, demanding the truth. Reluctantly, they told her of the curse and how, through no fault of her own, her brothers had been lost. Grief weighed heavy on her heart. She felt responsible, and a single thought took root in her mind. I must bring them back. No one could dissuade her. One morning before dawn, she slipped away from home and carried with her only a small ring from her parents, a loaf of bread, a jug of water, and a tiny stool to rest on. She walked for days, then weeks, venturing farther than she had ever imagined. She reached the very edge of the world, where the sky met the earth. First, she came to the sun, but its flames roared so fiercely that she dared not go near. She turned and ran before she was scorched. She sought shelter in the cool glow of the moon, but as soon as she stepped close, the moon's eerie voice hissed, "I smell flesh and blood." Terrified, she fled once more. At last she came to the stars. Now, unlike the sun and the moon, they were kind to her. Each sat upon their own tiny stool, twinkling warmly. The gentle morning star rose and handed her a small wooden key. "Without this," the star said, "you will never unlock the castle on the glass mountain. That is where your brothers are imprisoned." The girl thanked the stars and carefully wrapped the key in a cloth, tucking it safely away. So she journeyed on until she reached the glass mountain. It loomed before her, shimmering like ice, its peak vanishing into the clouds. At its base stood a heavy, locked door. She reached for the cloth bundle, her heart pounding, only to find it empty. The key was gone. Panic surged through her. She'd come so far. She couldn't fail now. But then she had an idea. Pulling a small knife from her pocket, she took a deep breath, then sliced off her own little finger. It was the exact size of the lost key, and with trembling hands, she slid it into the lock. Click. The door creaked open. Once inside, a small dwarf scurried up to her. "What do you seek?" he asked. "Were my brothers, the 7 ravens," she replied. The dwarf nodded. "They're not here at the moment, but if you wait, you may see them." He led her to a table set with 7 tiny plates and 7 tiny glasses. As she waited, she took a small bite from each plate and a sip from each glass. Into the last glass, she dropped her parents' ring. Suddenly, the air filled with the sound of wings. A flurry of black feathers swept through the castle as the ravens returned. They landed at the table and immediately noticed something was wrong. "Who's eaten at my plate?" one squawked. "Who has drunk from my glass?" another cawed. The 7th raven lifted his glass and peered inside. His beady eyes widened as he saw the ring at the bottom. "This is our parents' ring," he gasped. "Oh, if only our sister were here, then we could finally be free." And at that moment she stepped from the shadows. "I am here," she cried. A blinding flash filled the room. The curse shattered. In an instant the 7 ravens were gone, and standing before her were 7 young men, their human forms restored. With laughter, tears, and embraces, the brothers and their brave sister set off for home, where their parents wept with joy to see their family whole once more. And so, the girl who had once been so weak and small became the hero who saved her 7 brothers, proving that courage and love can overcome even the darkest of curses. And that's your lot for today. Today's story comes straight from Jakob and Wilhelm Grimm and their collection Grimm's Fairy Tales, originally known as the Children's and Household Tales, first published in around 1812. I think 7 versions were published between then and 1857, and the number of tales within the collection rose, I think, from 86 in the first version to well over 200, 211, I think, in the final version. Now, as ever, I love uncovering these little hidden gems and giving them new life. It helps to keep folklore alive for generations to come and helps us to share our cultures. If you want to find out more about my books and about the stories that I like to collect and tell, then you can check out any of the titles at Amazon or any good online or retail bookstore. There's also a link in the text below this particular video which will take you to one of those stores. If you're curious about Tales from the World's Firesides as a project, or me, Clive Gilson, the story guy, then why not visit clivegilson.com. And if you do, that's great. Before you do that, though, could you please hit the like button? It really helps people to discover these tales. And if you haven't subscribed already, then please do. There's well over 100 tales up there now, getting on for close to 120, in fact. And there's new stuff every week, and you'll be joining around about 40,000 other people who enjoy these tales on a regular basis. Enough said. Until next time, keep reading, keep listening, keep the magic alive, and take care.